Welcome back to GSMC's Down by Contact Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Monday, January 20th. If you are just tuning in, we just finished going over the third NFL game, the snow game between the Rams and the Eagles. In this segment, we turn our attention to the final game of the NFL divisional round, the kickoff one, as the Chiefs advance to their seventh straight AFC championship game versus the Texans, taking them out 23-14. But before we get into that game, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Monday, January 20th. But like I was saying, we are going to get into our fifth and final segment of the show here today. The Chiefs, of course, dominate once again and make it to their seventh straight AFC championship game. Every single year that Patrick Mahomes has been the starting quarterback, they have made it at least this far. This is a record that is only beaten by 8 straight years of Tom Brady and the Patriots dynasty making it to those AFC championship games, and it doesn't seem like Patrick Mahomes is going to stop at 7. Now that is speculating for the future here, and we're here to talk about the present. The past, the present, the recent, and the now, right? Let's talk about this Texans versus Chiefs game that saw the Chiefs advance. They win 23-14, and there's a couple of takeaways from this game. First one, of course, was the issues with the refs, and we're going to save that for the end because that's a whole nother issue, and that's something that we'll talk about after everything that happened in this football game. In this one, it started off bad immediately for the Texans, right? They kick it off, normal kickoff, instead returned 70 yards and a penalty. The Chiefs start this game off after a month off of football at the 13-yard line of the Houston Texans. Now, credit to the Houston Texans defense in this one, not just on that drive where they forced a field goal, but really throughout this whole game. This Houston Texans defense had to deal with a lot. Some short fields due to missed field goals, due to fourth down turnovers, due to bad special teams plays, right? They had to deal with a lot of not great circumstances, and they did their best. They had a lot of sacks in this one. They did everything they needed to. They got pressure on Patrick Mahomes, making him uncomfortable in the pocket, and sometimes it just didn't matter. On plays where any other quarterback would have gone down, would have taken a sack, would have thrown an incomplete pass, maybe even an interception, Patrick Mahomes goes out there and makes amazing plays. So I want to give him his credit first before we talk about some of those weird penalty calls, because Patrick Mahomes made one of those Patrick Mahomes plays again, right? Getting his feet taken out from under him, he kind of falls forward at like a 45-degree angle, similar to what Joe Burrow did earlier this season in Week 18. But in this one, he doesn't bend his knees. He locks his knees, which is something Patrick Mahomes doesn't get enough credit for. His awareness of his entire body. When he's falling to the ground, how he keeps his entire body up off the ground for longer than any other quarterback. Other quarterbacks would keep their knees bent. Patrick Mahomes takes that extra second to lock his knees, give him the time he needs to wind up, throw that ball, find Travis Kelce in the end zone for a touchdown as he is falling face first onto the turf. That is incredible. That is a beautiful play, and that is why Patrick Mahomes is one of the best, if not the best quarterback in all of NFL history. He's the best quarterback right now in the league, of course. No one is arguing that. But Travis Kelce had set history of his own. He is now the all-time leader in the playoffs of anybody ever, not just tight ends, of any receiver for 100-yard receiving games in the playoffs. He is first or second on every single major metric with Jerry Rice. What he's been able to do in his career in the playoffs is incredible. Travis Kelce, really, this was one of the more quiet 100-yard games. It was one of those break a big play and then not do much else. Ends up catching a touchdown, of course, on that crazy play by Patrick Mahomes. But this was just a classic Kansas City game, right? You trust the defense to shut down this Texans offense, and they did. That Texans offense was in a bind all game long. It wasn't just their offense, their special teams was really struggling. Kaimi Fairbairn, a usually reliable kicker, went 2 for 4 with a blocked kick and a missed kick, and missed his only attempt at an extra point. That's 7 points left on the board. Would not have mattered. They still would have ended up losing this game, even with that cheap safety that the Chiefs gave them at the end of it. They still would not have ended up winning that game. So you can talk about all you want. The Texans did not deserve to win this game. They were really, really bad with sacks. They took 8 sacks in this one. They lost 58 yards on those sacks, and they were super undisciplined. They took a lot of penalties, 84 yards in penalties compared to the Chiefs just 1 for 5. Excuse me. The Chiefs took a lot less penalties in this game. They were a lot more disciplined. That's how you win football games. We talk about luck. We talk about, it's rigged a lot of times. And there were some bad calls on the Texans, no doubt about it. 30 of those penalty yards were kind of not great. They were Patrick Mahomes doing Patrick Mahomes things, but still 54 yards in penalties and 58 yards in sacks. That's over 100 negative yards that you just don't see on the box score. That is bad. That is not okay. And the Chiefs win the game because of that. You can say it's devil magic. You can say it's rigged. You can say the refs are playing for the Chiefs or whatever you want. But at the end of the day, the Chiefs are just a really good football team. And really good football teams are going to make these situations happen more often than bad football teams because they're playing disciplined. They're playing smart. They're playing clean, and they're playing good football. They're not letting you put a chip in their armor by shooting themselves in the foot, right? They're not putting themselves in these situations where they have the ability to lose the game. They are playing winning football, and that is why the Chiefs always win these tight games. And that's fine. That is good coaching, that is good discipline, and that is a good football team. Now, getting to these calls a little bit, because they were bad, right? For lack of a better term, they were awful. These 2 calls, of course, in question, the roughing the passer call and the unnecessary roughness call, both on Patrick Mahomes, were not very good calls. Patrick Mahomes does this all the time, and it's one of these things that is just a part of the rule in football, right? By the letter of the law, those things were penalties. So the refs can hide behind that all they want. But you hit him on the shoulder, barely clip his helmet, you call that roughing the passer? I don't like that, right? He runs around, kind of stops and starts. Patrick Mahomes looks like he's going to slide, doesn't, takes a step, and then at the last second decides, I'm not getting any more yards, I'm going to go down, and then gets himself barely clipped in the helmet. Keeps his head up on these, by the way. That's one of the things, too. A lot of other quarterbacks will duck their head down, will stay down, or at least won't juke around like that. A lot of other quarterbacks will try and duck their head out of the way. Patrick Mahomes keeps his head up. He wants to draw these penalties. One of the best examples of it, I think, was in this game as well. On a scramble down the sideline, he runs basically face first into Kamari Lassiter. And the rookie corner, Kamari Lassiter, does something really smart that I don't see happen too often. He just kind of body blocks him. He's saying, I'm not getting another penalty. I'm just going to stand in front of you, and you're not going to be able to get past me. Patrick Mahomes does this all the time, where he gets to the sideline, people don't want to hit him, and he scrambles for 5, 6, 7 more yards, sometimes even 15 more yards if he's able to keep himself in bounds that long. Now, he gets hit. Patrick Mahomes kind of stops. They look at each other, and then a teammate of Kamari Lassiter comes across and hits Patrick Mahomes while he has 2 feet planted firmly in bounds. Wasn't too hard of a hit. It was a big push. He was coming over from a little bit, but he wasn't out of bounds. He was in bounds, and Patrick Mahomes does a performatory flop, right? He does this extra motion, gets on the ground, tries to ask for a penalty. And that's the kind of thing that I think gets people annoyed, right? By the letter of the law, these things were penalties, right? So I'm not going to sit here and get on my high horse and be like, the refs are doing special treatment for Patrick Mahomes. But the rule does need to change a little bit. There does need to be some protection for defenders because there aren't anything. This is a league that, and especially these rules protecting quarterbacks, are designed to hurt defenders. These rules make it near impossible for defenders to hit quarterbacks. They do. And I think they just need to change it a little bit. Look, you need to be able to review these. If a runner is going down late, and it doesn't have to be like a challengeable review, but New York goes to review all the time and says, hey, maybe we'll make an immediate change. If a runner is dancing around, kind of comes to a full stop, and then at the last second decides to duck down, you need to be able to differentiate that from, an actual headhunting call, from an actual call where it was unnecessary roughness. And you can tell the difference. If every fan in the world can see that it was kind of a not great call, and everyone can agree, that the announcers can agree, and even the analysts can say, I don't know, it technically is, and that's your best defense, it's not a great look. And again, the Chiefs are great. The Chiefs are great at football, and some of those calls are going to go their way because they're great at football, because they put themselves in these situations to get those calls, right? But the rule needs to tweak itself a little bit. It's not a bad rule. It's good to protect the quarterback. It's good to protect these defenseless runners and these defenseless receivers and everything like that. But you need to be able to tell when it is a real unnecessary roughness and when it's just a technical unnecessary roughness, if that makes sense. Those are my 2 cents on it. But the Chiefs advanced to their 7th straight AFC Championship game, and they played great. They really did. They deserve it. They are now taking on the Bills in a Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes playoff rematch. Should be a lot of fun. That is the Sunday night game. Cannot wait to see. Let me know what your thoughts were in this game. I'd love to hear them. And thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in to today's episode of GSMC's Down by Contact Sports Podcast. I've been your host, Jeremy Lapidus. We will be back tomorrow. Same time, same place, going over everything that happens in the world of sports, whether that be the national championship game or coaches being hired. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Y'all have a good one. Bye-bye.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet.